For this last module, I'm going to focus on a big determining factor of your success with teachers. This will provide you with the beginnings of your next step toward leadership success, which is becoming a proficient manager. Research has demonstrated that by being a good leader, you are putting your organization on the road to long-term sustainable success. Your job is to provide guidance, encouragement, and motivation. Leaders are the most successful when they understand the goals of their teachers. Your teachers must feel like they're in a satisfying position. Great ways to do that are through praise and recognition. Praise and recognition are some of the most underutilized tools that leaders have. It costs you nothing and barely takes up any time. When you go out of your way to praise a teacher on a regular basis, it's going to create a big impact. And when I say on a regular basis, I mean that you should keep track of who you acknowledged in the past month, much in the same way I suggest teachers keep track of who they called on for a specific desired task. And remember, any strengths you point out will only grow and grow to your benefit, to theirs, and to their students. Recognition is a more formal way to praise, and it doesn't have to cost much. Examples include having a reserved parking spot for the teacher of the month right next to the school building. And who wouldn't want that, even if they don't like getting attention? Another thing that will send your teachers sailing for months is to collect compliments that their students have for the teacher. The kids could be anonymous, so the teacher doesn't see who didn't participate, and you don't need more than 3 compliments from students. An anonymous compliment from a parent would be also wonderful. You could include these testimonials in your thank you recognition to teachers. I really like the thank you cards. In fact, I still have the thank you cards that I received from my students and their parents. So play into this. I cannot emphasize enough just how much emotional currency this contains. Have open and honest dialogue. You might think that you're doing your teachers a favor by sparing them the details if there are complaints, but there's nothing more frustrating for a teacher to learn that someone had a complaint against them and they never had a chance to listen or to change. But there's a balance. When there's a student complaint or parent complaint, instead of asking the teacher to defend themselves, you need to be super careful to make it clear that you are sure that the teacher has a legitimate perspective. Be an ally. And you might be thinking that this is obvious, but the truth is that teachers feel accused way too often. And it's the quickest way to lose a teacher for good. Something that's not as drastic as accusing a teacher, but could turn into a big problem, is when the teacher feels either looked down upon, judged, or spoken to in an uncomfortably firm way. Actively do things that show you admire the teacher's skill, that you trust their judgment, and you know that they want to do the right thing. Similar to students. It's a very human thing to want to do right and succeed. Just as a teacher celebrates positive trends in their students, celebrate improvements with your teachers. When they see that it's important for them to be as effective as possible, it's something that you care about, then they'll pay attention to growth. And a teacher who is truly motivated to grow and develop professionally is a teacher you want to keep. And as I mentioned in the teacher training, the law of reciprocity applies here more than ever. Your teachers, who are treated wonderfully by you, will do anything for you. Teachers who like their supervisor will go above and beyond for them. Another thing to mention, and I don't mention this because it's rocket science, but because it's often missing in action. When a teacher reaches out to you in any sort of distress, even if it's just an exasperated comment or saying they're having a hard time using the curriculum provided, that should set off the urgent and important alert for you. Retaining teachers may seem important, but not urgent, so it's easy to underestimate its importance. But now things have become so difficult for teachers that their needs have become urgent, hence the teacher shortage crisis. Ask any teacher who quit or moved to a different school why they did that. You'll find 9 times out of 10 that it was because of the leadership. There's a saying that people don't leave their jobs, they leave bad bosses. I'm all too aware that everyone's human, and when I was a teacher, it was my job to consider why the leader acted the way they did if I was displeased. Maybe the leader was feeling defensive or said too much. Whatever it was, I'm absolutely sure that a less than perfect action on the administrator's part felt warranted at the time. But with no judgment, think about whatever happened and reflect for the future. But with no judgment, think about whatever happened and reflect for the future. I recommend using the Gibbs reflective cycle, which was developed by Graham Gibbs in the late 1980s. Here are the steps. The first one is to describe the experience objectively, without emotions or anything. Next, write down the feelings and the thoughts you had about the experience. Third, evaluate the experience, both the good and the bad. Fourth, you're going to analyze and make sense of the situation. Why did that happen? Why did they act the way they did? Why did I act the way I did? The fifth step is the conclusion. Conclude what you learned and what you could do differently next time. What changes would you make? This course was a taster to my complete leadership series. You've taken step 1 out of 5. You are a fireman no more. Make sure to keep reflecting during the year. I've attached a questionnaire called Scale of Effective School Discipline Survey, or SESDS, from one of the biggest experts on instructional leadership, Dr. Howard Knopf. Look it over. You're going to find it useful in observing teacher effectiveness and using it as a guide to help struggling teachers fix issues one step at a time. I also attached another resource which is going to help you take the SESDS and understand what action steps to take. You can use that as great sources to help you help teachers to succeed. Now that you're not dealing with crisis, it's time for the next step, to be a proficient manager. In order to truly graduate to the next tier of being out of immediate crisis, you need to plan for how these techniques will work for you. And when I say you're out of crisis, I don't necessarily mean that the entire teacher shortage crisis is just solved through being a nice leader. And when I say you're out of crisis, I don't necessarily mean that the entire teacher shortage will be solved just through being a nice leader. No way. If that was it, there wouldn't be a teacher crisis. Full stop. The problems that led to the grand national and even international teacher shortage crisis are very complex and multi-layered. This PD focused on the most urgent area, which is classroom management. There are some other very important areas that may seem less important, but now they've become so urgent because of the crisis. You may have helped struggling teachers with basic classroom survival, but keeping your teachers and moving, growing, and accomplishing is the fuel that will take you onward. Can't wait to see you in future courses.